What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Savage Land. Welcome to another episode of Soapbox. Soapbox is pretty much a commentary show, if you haven't been watching for the past couple of weeks, where I have 3 segments. The first segment is Community. Community is basically what I watched on the YouTube community throughout the week. The second segment is pretty much rants, hot topics, something that's on my mind I feel like I want to talk about for a little bit. And then the last part is toy sales, or if there's any type of clearance, toy news. First up, we got my man from Legions of Valorverse. Elliot Lee is on Legion of Valorverse from my Facebook group, and he has this really cool photo that's like in depth. It starts with the barrel to me and works its way on back. These type of photos right here, I really envy. I want to start doing photos like this, but Elliot Lee, you killed this, man, and you have to do a really good photo for me to just take notice and ask the person, like, hey, can I put this up on my YouTube channel? And Elliot Lee, you killed it. I've seen some other photos you've done too. You do pretty good, man, but this comes out of Legion of Valorverse, a Facebook group I'm on, and Elliot Lee, you killed this photo with the barrel and the depth coming back from the barrel. Imagine looking at that coming out your front door. Next up on Community, I watched Vlad TV, which I pretty much watch every week, but there's a guy on there called Keefy D. And if you don't know who Keefy D, even though the name sounds pretty funny, he's a Southside Crip from Los Angeles, California. Well, actually Compton. And he's allegedly one of the guys who was in the car when Tupac got killed, who actually did kill Tupac. But this, sometimes thumbnails just catch me off guard, and this thumbnail that was on there said, guy who killed 8 Crips was gay in prison. And it's not Keefy D, but I guess another Crip that he knew from his gang or whatnot. But it's a good interview. Keefy D is actually quite a funny person, just naturally, not trying to like tell jokes or anything like that. You just watch his mannerism, and he'll have you laughing. But Vlad usually has a pretty interesting interview. This segment on the interview is actually pretty good, so if you guys can, check that out. Alright, this is for my sneakerheads. I'm into sneakers also. I just picked this channel, Soul Inclined, because he didn't have a lot of subscribers, and maybe I can put you guys onto him if you're into tennis shoes. But the penny foams dropped. Foam posits are pretty much a carbon-based fiber shoe. It's really hard, and it fits in foam to your shoe after wearing it for a couple of weeks. Almost like a Reebok Air Pump, but without the air. It's an almost indestructible shoe. It'll last for like 20 years, but this thing is beautiful. It looks like a stormtrooper. And even if you're not into shoes, it might look crazy to you, because this shoe originally came out in 1997. In 1997, it cost $180, which is crazy. It's astronomical. Jordans cost $100 in the 90s. So this shoe is almost $200. And now it's going for like $240. But it's a beautiful shoe, man. And foam posit is almost indestructible, and it'll fit and form. I own a couple of pair. It'll fit and form to your foot after a while. It's kind of like a funny feeling, but it's a good looking shoe. So if you're into shoes, foam posits, PEs, which is player edition, this is the shoe that actually Penny Hardaway actually wore in 1997, the first time you ever seen him. Really, Mike Bibby wore them first, but Penny Hardaway wore them first in 1997 for the Orlando Magic, man. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but if you guys are interested in that, check out Soul Inclined, and he has the Penny Foams review. Up next for my hood TV, my my crack DVD, my smack DVD, people, we have another hood documentary, Paid in Full TV, of LA, the son of Harlem. I believe his real name was Donald Johnson. And just going a quick spiel, if you ever seen Paid in Full, the movie, it's actually a biopic on kind of a biopic on 3 teenage drug dealers from Harlem in the 80s. One being Rich Porter, the other being Alpo Martinez, and the third being AZ Faison. These guys were like 18 years old, 17 years old, sitting up with $300,000, $400,000. It's pretty sad because it comes from the crack era, but it's almost kind of amazing how young kids can make that much money and have like 5 or 8 cars. But really quick, LA was a name that popped up a lot, and I've never had physically seen him before or knew who he was. But his name is stands for Los Angeles. It actually stands for Lenox Avenue, a street in Harlem, New York City. But LA was a guy name I used to hear in these documentaries back in the day. Yeah, that's L.A. Rich was L.A. man, L.A. this, L.A. that. And he got killed before these other three guys really got on. He got killed like in 1984. And the other guys kind of got on in 1985 and on. And they had a success story, but it was a lot of tragedy in it, man. And anytime something like that happens, there's always going to be some tragedy and some death. You know, people getting killed, going to jail, and then at the end, you know, no matter how much money you can make, is it really all worth it? But this is life. You live it, and you don't know it until you live it. But L.A., the Son of Harlem, is actually a pretty good documentary. Overall, it was a good documentary. Now, also, I watched, and I don't know if anybody else is into this, but I watch retro TV commercials and compilation. The other day, I decided to watch old G.I. Joe commercials from the 90s. And it had some 80s ones, but it was a big compilation of them, and Retro Toys and Cartoons has this compilation of 90s G.I. Joe commercials or vintage G.I. Joe commercials, and it was pretty cool, man. I seen the Sky Striker commercial, Tiger Force commercial, Cobra Night Raven, Cobra Rattler commercial. And it just has pretty much every vehicle commercial up there. And that's what it was. I think it was 90s vehicles or something like that. But what had me laughing was, I don't know if you remember these cheesy 1990s commercials for G.I. Joe when it was actually live action. And it was just, everything was way over proportionate. Cobra Commander Hood looks like some big crazy like helmet. And it's crazy when you see it. But it's also funny, man. And it's also classic. But 18 minutes and 23 seconds into this video, Storm Shadow drops out of the air and does this shitty ass roundhouse and kicks this guy. But then when he does it, the actor almost falls over. Then he looks like he's kind of like overweight. It's horrible, and it's slow. Like, I don't know who would get caught by that roundhouse, but it's quite funny. So if you want a good laugh, go to the 18 minutes 23 seconds mark and watch Storm Shadow do that shitty roundhouse. Up next, I pretty much watched Jay Hernandez. I haven't watched anything from him in a minute, but he had Loose Collectors Mr. Hyde, which is a third-party company which made a big Mr. Hyde figure, and he's like colossal, and it looks like he moves real good. One thing about Jay Hernandez, he could do a video on a Mr. Potato Head and make it look good. So if you guys want to be entertained, check out Jay Hernandez review of Mr. Hyde. Last but not least, up this week, another guy I haven't watched in a minute, and these two guys are pretty much hand in hand, Jay Hernandez and D Amazing. He did a review on the Cobra Crimson Vipers, which I plan on getting myself. One thing I had to take away from this review that he did, he said his head was real loose, but he showed that they switched up the ball peg too. But people complain about loose limbs. On my Cobra bats, the original and the Python Patrol seems a little bit more wonkier than the original, almost like if the mold's getting reused. So I don't know, we'll see when I get mines here. But if you guys also want to be entertained, this guy can also take a Mr. Potato Head and make it look good. All right, now we have Hot Topics or Rants, and today on Hot Topics or Rants, we got how to regulate collecting and when is it enough collecting. And I'll take this in two parts. How to regulate collecting. What's the answer to that? To be honest with you, I have no true answer to that. All I can say is for my collection, what I do and what I have done, because I could pretty much collect everything. And how to regulate collecting is, to me, because where I'm at now, is find a brand and dive into that. That way you can get a full toy experience. You can get vehicles if your toy line or brand does that. You can get you can go and search for obscure characters like San Diego Comic-Con, because you haven't spent your money on some other things. You've actually concentrated all of your money into one line. Also, how to regulate is wait for clearance. Wait for clearance. There's been a couple of times where I've jumped out and brought a figure, and lo and behold, 2 or 3 months later, because it's getting shorter and shorter. It used to be 6 months later. It used to be a year later you find it on deal. 6 months later. Now it's getting like 2 or 3 months later, and this thing is on sale. Now, I wouldn't recommend that for every figure, but for the most part, 75 to 80% of figures are going on sale and clearance. Now, there are some that you know, if you waited, then you missed out. But that's few far in between now. Not regular releases are doing that now. You know, especially after getting over the COVID, you know, shipping frenzy. But that's the best way to regulate. And then truly ask yourself, am I gonna die if I don't get this? Seriously, am I gonna pass out and have a cardiac arrest if I don't get a figure? I have to tell myself that, and it's true. Like, are you gonna die if you don't get this? No, move on. And eventually it's out of my mind, because like I say, once you get that high, that rush of grabbing a figure, and say if you got a lot of figures like me and it goes on that pile, it's out of sight, out of mind. You're on to the next high. So, guys and gentlemen, and ladies, regulate your collection by just focusing on what you like. If you like G.I. Joe Classified, I would really just narrow in on that. If you're into Marvel Legends, I would just narrow in on that. If you like NECA, I would just narrow in on the NECA brands. And that is my only say so. And then, when is enough collecting enough? Get out of here. It's never enough.
All right, so we're going to get into the toy sales for the week that I seen. And right here on Amazon.com US, we got Ric Flair with the banker haircut for $16.35. If you're into WWE Elite, good figure for the cheap price. But the other subject I want to get into is G.I. Joe and the remarkable toy sales that's been coming up as of lately, because they're trying to clear out product. Now, these twins get thrown up here a lot for $16, but this is the cheapest I've ever seen a twin up, for $13.99, and that's a really, really good figure for $13.99, really for under 20 bucks, period. But you just need to keep your eye open, because there's constant G.I. Joe sales coming. The Falcon, Cover Girl wave, Outback wave, I wouldn't be surprised if that goes on a hard clearance, kind of getting deep into the summer, especially with the new figures unloading. This Viper 3-pack is still a really good deal. I waited to pick it up for $70.99, man. And I think for 3 figures with the blast effects that you get, that's definitely worth the price. They're all under 25 bucks. Of course, with tax, it's going to come to 25 a piece, but you get those good blast effects. Big Bad Toy Store had a phenomenal sale earlier this week. All these Joes, Cobra Officer for $15, Storm Shadow's a great figure for $15, Spirit Iron Knife, great figure for $15, and of course the twins, they've been cheap as always. But keep your eye open, especially when this summer comes. I think you're going to find a lot of good sales and clearance on G.I. Joe Classified. This is the Savage Land. This is Soapbox. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. If you can, give me a like, comment, subscribe. On this channel, we do this for the love and beauty of action figures. And with that being said, my friends, God bless.